Hi, it's Mark. So you guys have been absolutely blowing up my Instagram messages asking me to make this video. So today, here it is. I'm going to be explaining to you how I quit my 9-to-5 job at 20 and why, to be honest, I'm never going to go back, and how that decision has led me to making over $50 million in sales from my own business. Before we start, I want to make one thing crystal clear. I'm not going to be bashing the 9-to-5 jobs in this video. I'm not saying everyone should quit and start a business. It's definitely not right for everyone, but you never know. By watching this video to the end, it might open up a new pathway for you that you might want to walk down. You'll also find out why a simple desk like this can mean so much to me. So you can go ahead, look, you can grab some popcorn, buckle up and smash that thumbs up button. Here we go. This is the story of how I went from a small English town to the rolling hills of San Francisco and the bustling city of Shanghai, China, including all the challenges that I faced along the way. Let me take you back to 1985. That's the last time I walked out of those gates. I was 16 years old, I was tall, skinny, and I had ginger hair. And I was broke, unfortunately, but I knew I wanted to make my mark on the world, and there was no way I could do that sitting in lessons learning about things I wasn't interested in. So I went out to seek my fortune. But before we get there, let's rewind it a bit. When I was younger, I was always looking to make money. I know it's a little cliche, but when I was a kid, I was selling candy and cans of soda to all the other kids in the playground. On the weekend, I used to go fishing. I used to catch hundreds of mackerel, and even used to go round the neighbourhood, knocking door to door, selling them to people. I was offering a great deal, 10 fish for $1, but it turns out no one wanted 10 fish. So I went back to the drawing board and I reorganised my business with a new strategy. I decided from now on I'd be selling 5 fish for $1. I was shocked by the results. Everyone wanted some. This brings me back to these school gates. When I left here, I had several paths that I could follow. I decided I wanted a 9-to-5 job. I needed to learn a skill that set me up for life. I actually had 5 jobs lined up. I had the choice between being a builder, an electrician, a refrigeration engineer, a shop assistant, or a carpenter. It was a tough decision, but in the end I decided on becoming a carpenter. The pay wasn't great at $3 an hour, but I was learning a skill, and I was also learning about life. And by the way, I didn't let those jobs go to waste. I managed to give them to my friends, one of whom is now running the entire business he started out at. I'd really love to hear from you in the comments below what you do for a living. Particularly if you're looking at changing your job. I'm really interested and I love reading through all your replies. Anyway, I really threw myself into the carpentry. I learned everything I could. I even won leadership awards, and I really felt like I was moving forward with my life. But the pay was only just enough to cover my bills. So I got a Saturday job working in a radio controlled model shop. I was also side hustling and flipping cars on the side, which basically consisted of finding underpriced cars, fixing them up and then selling them for a profit. To this day, I still own this Ford Fiesta XR2 Mark I. It's a 1985 model. And the cars I was buying at that stage were costing me $200 to $300, and I was usually flipping them for, I say, $500 to $600. So it was really, really good. This little beauty's worth a little bit more than that now though. As well as doing all of this, I was also teaching people to fly radio control helicopters on Sundays. There was a huge demand at the time, and all Sunday I would be booked out as long as the weather was good. I knew that this was my opportunity to save as much money as possible. I didn't know what I was going to do with it exactly, but I knew enough to know that the power you get from having that money would allow me the freedom to take advantage of any opportunities that would come my way. Up to this point, everything was going great until I had my first run-in with my manager. I'd finished my apprenticeship with honours from the college and thought, here we go, all the big jobs are coming my way. But one after another, all I was assigned to was making these wooden bins. I hadn't studied all this time to make wooden bins. Nowadays, it's the sort of job a repetitive robot would do. I looked around the workshop and I saw many other people doing lots of different interesting jobs. So I asked to speak to the manager, and where we're filming this is the exact spot where we stood. I said I needed more of a challenge. I couldn't keep making these bins. And you know what he said to me? He said, you're making these bins today, you'll be making these bins tomorrow. We got a 5-year contract with Walmart. You're going to be making a lot of these bins. One day, however, they needed some help installing this beautiful staircase in a customer's house. I jumped at the chance. One of the very few better jobs I got. It was one of the most impressive houses that I'd ever seen. It had marble floors, it had chandeliers, private swimming pools. The garage was full of beautiful sports cars. And you know what? It was my dream house. I started daydreaming and adding up how many years it would take me to earn enough money to buy a place like this. And I gradually got more and more demoralised, as even with my side hustles, I realised I still would never have enough money. It was so close, but just so far at the same time, and I felt there was really nothing more I could do to achieve it. I was absolutely exhausted, physically, mentally. I was working every hour of the day. While working, I would often look out of the window and see the owner relaxing in the garden or going off to play golf. And I really couldn't understand how this guy managed to have the life that he wanted, and he could go and play and have fun whenever he wanted. I had to ask a few questions, and it turns out that he ran his own business. This really got the wheels turning in my mind. If this was a normal guy and he was able to do all this, then I was pretty sure I could do it too. I started thinking back to my school years and selling those fish. That was my first real experience of running a small business, and I'd loved every second of it, from getting the product to the selling of the product. I couldn't believe that I'd been suppressing this for years and trying to conform to what my manager wanted me to do. So I devised a plan of escape. To have the best chance of success, I knew it was so important to create a business in an industry I was both familiar with and passionate about. And I was lucky I had the perfect idea. The shop I was working in on Saturdays was a radio controlled model store. Over the years I'd been working there, I spotted lots of things that they could be doing differently and all the mistakes that they were making. I researched and found the perfect location for a store. I even came up with the perfect name, which was inspired by an old TV show I used to watch when I was younger, Model World. I've even still got the book from the television series. There you go, Model World, made by the BBC. Back in 1975. Not a lot of people believed in me, unfortunately. I came from a working class background. I had little to no qualifications, so no one thought I'd be able to break into the market, except from one of my friends, who I told my entire plan to. I couldn't wait to quit my job and get started so I could prove everyone wrong. I just needed to get enough money together first. Within a few months, Model World shop was up and running, but it wasn't anything to do with me. My friend had stolen my idea and done it himself. I felt so betrayed and frustrated that I trusted him with all my plans. I even started thinking to myself that maybe being an entrepreneur wasn't actually right for me. I was stuck at my 9-to-5 job, being ordered around by my manager at the same time as watching my friend living my dream. I felt like a sprinter, chained up in the starting blocks, unable to release all that energy. It was one of the worst feelings in my life. The whole future I'd built up in my head started to come crashing down. But I decided to keep working and save my money and build up my credit score. So I bought my first apartment. I grinded as hard as I could. I thought I was working hard before, but this was the next level. I worked every hour under the sun. I wasn't going to let my financial situation leave me open to having my dreams taken right away from me. And then one day, I heard some great news that my friend wanted to sell Model World. I'd visited a few times and noticed that my friend wasn't giving it the attention it needed. It had huge potential, but his passions were not in the business. I knew I needed to buy the shop and get my dreams back on track. This was the opportunity that I'd been preparing myself for, and I wasn't going to let it slip through my fingers again. I had a little bit of money behind me, $10,000 to be exact, but it still wasn't going to be enough, nowhere near enough. But I had built up a good credit score, so I thought, I know what, I'll leverage that $10,000 and see if I can get it to $30,000 with a bank loan. He had taken my great idea, he'd taken my name, but the one thing he couldn't take from me was my passion, and that's what was going to make this business a great success. In order to get a meeting with the bank manager, I needed to create a business plan, which is obviously something I'd never done before. I knew pretty much exactly what I wanted to do, but putting it into a plan is obviously a really hard thing to do. So I had to get everything down on paper. I managed to get everything together and get a meeting with the bank manager. I'd banked there since I was a kid. Within 10 minutes, I'd been denied the loan. It was the worst interview of my life. I felt like I'd been kicked out of the bank. It was unreal. My head was down. I was walking back to my car. And do you know what? I really didn't know what to do. It was like being back at that house again. So close, yet so far. I had to pick myself up. And as luck would have it, the next building I stumbled on was this bank here. I hustled my way in and I got a meeting right there and then with the manager. He actually said it was a great idea and he thought it was very, very interesting. He even said he'd be one of my first customers. He was a lovely guy and he was always eager, he said, to help out the younger generation. This is a perfect example of where preparation and resilience meets opportunity. You never know when your next stroke of luck is around the corner. And for me, it quite literally was, just round the corner. What's a passion you have that could make you money? Let me know in the comments below. Everyone's got a passion. Without any hesitation, I closed that deal on Model World. The rights to the name and all the products they had. It was finally mine. I knew the hard work was yet to come, but it was mine. The shop was even smaller than my current living room, but I had big plans. The first day I opened the shop, I had a sleeping bag behind the counter because I knew that if I didn't make enough money that day, I'd be sleeping there because I certainly didn't have enough gas to drive the car home. Luckily, the first day was a great success. All the selling, negotiation, marketing, finance and mindset skills came in really useful. Without them all working together, I wouldn't have been able to make my business profitable. I managed to pay back the 5-year loan within just 2 years and we doubled the size of the shop by knocking down the wall. After 3 years, we'd turned over $1 million and it was crazy. It was crazy times. But it was good fun times and we had more challenges along the way. After 10 years, we had 3 shops and a warehouse stuffed full of gear, but we wanted to be number one, so we had plans to push on even more. Then the internet struck. Well, the internet was always around, but people never really trusted it. You know, not like a real life shop, but at some point that changed and people started buying more and more online. In my industry, it was really sink or swim. Everyone was getting wiped out of business and going bust. I knew it was only a matter of time before that was going to happen to me and I'd be out of business if we didn't adapt to the times. It seems now that multiple shops wasn't the answer, as the internet gave me the ability to reach far more people than I ever could before. I decided to close 2 shops and create a business model with one central location, which could be used to serve customers all over the world instead of just in my local area. I still thought it was important to have a shop, but I doubled down and bought 2 more warehouses so we had enough space to sell products online as well. I knew that if I wanted to protect myself from something like this in the future, then adapting wouldn't be enough. I needed to create another business with a different strategy so that if I was ever in trouble, I always had another source of income. My business model had always been B to C, meaning I sold from my business to my customers. But I had always had the idea to start a B to B, so that's business selling to other business. I happened to know someone who had a similar business out in America, so me and the girlfriend, she's the wife now, we packed our bags and we took a spontaneous trip to LA. The trip was so spontaneous that I even forgot my driving license. So when we landed at LAX airport, I had to go to the most dodgy car rental place in history. All I could manage to rent was this big old Dodge Dynasty town car, which was falling apart. Then following the map, we drove that baby all the way up the coast road to San Francisco. That's where the guy I wanted to meet lived, in a small town called Milpitas, just near San Jose. I didn't even have a hotel booked, so we just winged it. I thought, you'll always find a hotel in California. It turned out to be a big convention week. There wasn't a room to be had. We ended up in the most dodgy motel I'd ever stayed in my life. We didn't even risk getting undressed. We just slept on top of the bed in case we had to get out fast. It was just one of those things, and it was only one up from sleeping in the car. He was very shocked when I arrived, as he had no idea I was coming. I just rolled up, knocked on the door and said I was just passing. He said, "That's one hell of a road trip from the UK." We managed to negotiate a deal together that allowed me to open up a British version of the business, Century UK. We became the exclusive importer into the UK, and we also shipped to the whole of Europe. But we ran into quite a big issue. Although people were loving the products, our range was just too limited. The American version of the business basically stopped trading, which opened me up to expanding the range. I'd been exclusive just to theirs at that time. I had some great plans for new designs, but I wasn't sure how to get the mass products that I wanted. I'd never been involved in the production side of the business. I decided on a spontaneous trip, this time to Shanghai in China, where the plan was to build connections and find a factory to produce my designs. Before I knew it, I had been interviewed at the Chinese embassy in London, issued with a visa, and I was sat on a plane with a few faxes printed out. And they said on the top of these faxes, "Hand this to the taxi driver when you get to the airport." The rest of it, I couldn't read a word of it. It was all in Chinese characters. I could have quite literally ended up anywhere. The trip went really well, and I gained lots of new contacts, with many invites to travel to Shenzhen to visit their factories. This was great, and I still think that if you take the trouble to meet people for real, then you can grow a real bond in business where you help each other. You have to press the flesh to gain the loyalty. That brings me to today. My two businesses are thriving, and our online sales are going stronger than ever, even during the current pandemic. One of the most important things I've learned from my experience is that there is less risk in stepping out of your comfort zone and adapting than there is to not taking any risk at all. If you do not evolve, then you are extinct. It's as simple as that. If you've been considering quitting your job, then know this. If you've got the right plan and the right motivation, you have as much chance of success as anyone else. You don't have to come from a rich family. You don't have to have lots of connections. The barriers to entering the business world have never been this easy. You don't even need to go and get bank loans when all you need is a computer, some brains, that certainly helps, and an internet connection to make your first bit of startup money. Who knows, one day you could be sitting in the boss's seat behind the boss's desk. And this is literally the boss's desk. I was once sitting just where you are now, having my interview to become a carpenter. When that firm went into receivership and it came up for auction, I went straight down it and I bought this desk. So today, guys, I've got two video options for you. You can click on this one or you can click on this one. But before you do, please subscribe to the channel if you want to increase your wealth, and don't forget to destroy that thumbs up button and leave your comments below. I will get back to you personally. So what are you waiting for? Click on the video. I'll see you on the other side. See you later.